are you doing?
Hi, Helen. We're good, good. How are you doing?
I'm good too, thank you. So finally, iOS 14.5 has arrived. And I believe everyone here in HGC would love to hear about how Mamboo Game is handling the situation. Are you excited to talk about today's topic?
Yep, sure.
Yeah.
So the experience is a bit surprising for us
Mhm.
because we expected that might be a huge decrease for the monetization part. I
Mhm.
mean, eCPM values across all the networks.
Mhm.
And in fact, it was not such a terrible thing to be afraid of. So I mean that uh, from the beginning of iOS 14.5 release, the only one network had a drop up to 60%. That
Mhm.
that was quite a big drop, but all other networks had a drop up to 20% only for a few days. So during the May, everything has returned back to the pre-DFA numbers, and even one network has higher ECPM than it was
Mhm.
before iOS 14.5 release. That was surprising for us, but in general, the picture stays almost the same that it was before.
That's interesting. So as a Tenjin customer, Mamboo Games, I believe you have some custom setup built on top of Tenjin. Would you like to tell us more about it?
Yeah, sure. We're using custom solution. It's a custom LTV predictor and business intelligence dashboard that we use for our internal usage, and it's also used for our partners to have everything collected and predicted in one place. So it also contains monetization metrics and all the stuff about segregation for data that we can see as a fact data as predictive data too. So it's LTV predictor, as I told before, and we use the raw data from Tenjin Data Vault that helps us to get different bounds of this data and create predicts for different groups.
So for people who don't know what is Data Vault is Tenjin's data warehouse as a service. So our customers can get the access to their raw data, and then they can do a lot of custom analysis with that. So at Tenjin, we see from 10 to 15% of opt-in rate across the board after iOS 14.5. Have you done some exciting experiments with ATT pop-up? So ATT is App Tracking Transparency, which is a new privacy protection framework. So when an Apple user downloads an app, a notification pops up and asking if the user wants to be tracked or not. So I heard that some developers are experimenting with different variations like timing wise, under some messaging, some are giving some incentivized choices as well. How about Mamboo Games?
Yeah, so we did some experiments as well. It was uh, in April and before that. And it was interesting to took a look about the percentage of opt-in and different variations about order of showing custom window and system window. So it was interesting during the moment while we got the latest information from Apple that now it's not allowed to create any custom window to handle user decision and to create any pressure or any reward for user to be opt-in. So in general, it means that now it doesn't make sense to create any experiment because it will not be allowed in Apple. And the only thing we can change for now is to show system window for user and change its message. So, and of course, we can change the order and the place how we can, when we can show it. But in general, we should also remember that during the time that user does not allow to show, to see this window, the user will be invisible for attribution, at all. And if he performed some actions, some things that related to monetization, to some custom metrics for attribution, so they will not be sent. They will be like invisible, and they will not exist in the data. So it's important to remember that in general, it makes no big sense to delay this showing of ATT window, and showing this from the beginning is okay. So you can just A/B test with the message of this window.
So while accommodating ourselves to this huge change, what challenges do you have right now with SK Network reporting? So SK Network is a new framework of Apple that they are taking over attribution to protect their user privacy. So we have a different level of granularity now. So officially iOS 14.6 is rolled out, and it's confirmed that they won't support IP addresses anymore. So what challenges do you have?
Yep, the main challenge is that we do not have any country data. So that's what you mean, that IP address is not good reported or not reported at all. So the consequence of that, we cannot detect the country. And for example, USA and Great Britain is the same for us because users are put in the same bucket in this case. So it not thing that helps us, and currently it seems that we cannot handle it on our side because it's input data, and we do not have any border things to have a chance to recover this lost data. So that's a thing that a big challenge for us, and not only for our company, for industry too. And I hope it can be solved somehow. So yes, and geo-segmentation is not available because of this thing, and that's why the attribution thing should be changed somehow. So any custom approaches can be built for this site, so we can attach some kind of analytics and measure things of the volume of users according to cohorts and networks. So that cannot be improved, of course, but in general, it creates a big challenge for industry.
Yeah, so with these all challenges, at Tenjin, we're trying to minimize the impact on our customers' analysis with our solution, aka attribution modeling. So attribution modeling is a new method that determines a source of an acquired user by assigning to it independent probabilities based on multiple signals. Do you want something, what do you want from Tenjin to help you with iOS 13.5 plus?
Yeah, that's a nice thing to have, that you have already mentioned. So country data from scanned networks is a good appointment for us to have, that will make all things more simple, and will help us to live the same as it was before release iOS without IDFA. Yeah, and some other things. Yes, we're waiting for probabilistic model on the side of Tenjin that will also help us to create any general solution on your site and reuse it for our company and all other customers as a usual standard. So where user comes from network, and it can be easily converted to any revenue, money value. So the conversion between number to money will be also good to be supported on your site, because there can be some strategies that will be applied for that, and it will be nice to have any kind of choice So we can choose which one is suitable for our game. So of course it depends which kind should be done in one or other game. And after the choice, we can do all the setup. And after that, the engine will help to calculate and map everything we required to be mapped. Yeah, and after that, after all the calculations, cohort and non-cohort metrics, we will see the whole picture in the Tenjin's dashboard. So it will be a good story to have for us.
Yeah. Yeah, so at the stage 2 of attribution modeling, our customers will be able to see cohort metrics like LTV and ROI, all these metrics on our dashboard. And the final stage, customers will be able to see those metrics with the percentage of probabilities. So yeah, I'm very excited.
Great.
Also, what are the new trends that you are seeing post iOS 14.5? Is there anything you've seen so far?
Yeah, we just mentioned that iOS part becomes smaller from the stage of testing games. So the whole picture will be available a bit later, because for now only 15% of all people with iOS devices have updated to the latest version. And we can see just a small part of this era, a new era without a DFA. And it means that it will be available to see all the possible challenges and changes, I think, in a couple of months. So by the autumn, it should be more clear for us what things we should change and what things are okay for now. Also, that important to mention, Android part becomes bigger for testing, yes. And as well, it's related to less complicated things for testing. And also, sometimes it's just easier to handle all things inside of game. So we need less things, less technical setups to have the same result. I mean, on Android compared to iOS. So yes, in general, some networks are in progress of improving the reporting strategy about users without IDFA. Yes, IDFA networks, I mean ad networks, and the reports about postbacks and some information they got from Apple about installations. So they do not have any common solution or just a common template that every network should follow up. And it means the different networks can do that in their own manner. So it creates some long and not appreciable work on our side, on side of customers. Also for attribution, it's not stable to have because it's required to create any extended solutions. So I hope we will have the opportunity to get stable data from all the networks with the discovered format and things we should expect that will not be changed on their side.
Yeah, at Tenjin, we also see a budget shifting from iOS to Android. A lot of customers spending more and more on Android. Do you think that Android can compensate somehow for what has been lost on iOS side because of this change?
It definitely compensates now because some networks issues I thought are related to get eCPM fewer for iOS side. Yes, and Android was quite stable for this case, and that's why, for example, Mamboo Games did more vector changes for Android China platform, and it helps to mitigate this risk and extend the volume of publishing for us.
Yeah, so at Tenjin, we actually just launched China Android platforms, for example, Huawei, this week. So yeah, it's very exciting for us and also for our customers. Yeah. So my last question for you would be, what are your predictions for hypercasual market for this year, the rest of this year?
That's an extra question for every year. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So people may play a bit less, I guess, during the coming summer and hot days may make playtime less. But
Yeah.
of course, yeah, I think in general it's a joke, and no big changes expected according to the market in general, because this year the industry has grown up by 25% comparing to different to previous year, and it means that the market grows up, and games are as popular as before, but more than before, of course. So the changes should be from not the point of users and volumes. The changes should be from additional technical challenges as publishers and developers. They will follow us every time and everywhere, I think, unfortunately, yeah. And a flexible and multiple way of solving them will help us to reach the goal of having a good automated approach with enough level of details. So that I think we are going together with Tenjin and trying to integrate and automate our process and data to have it fully extensible and available in our automated solutions.
Yeah, yeah, thank you very much for the answers. It was very insightful. Now, are you ready for the questions?
Yeah, yes, please.
Yeah.
Thank you one more time for the amazing speech. So we have the questions now. The first question is, could we expect the appearance of Apple's own network?
I'm almost sure that yes. It's also possible to have their own attribution network, attribution solution, I hope, but I'm not sure about the date and the form, how that should be implemented and used by end users then. Heelin, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you, Maxim.
Okay, the next one. Please point the most important things in one sentence about how marketers can adapt to iOS 14 changes to achieve optimal mobile ad performance.
Okay, so I think they have to overview final metrics from the networks they use. For example, if you have your own setup for waterfall of networks in any kind of mediation you use, you have to check out the metrics probably daily. Mostly it's have more sense to check it out weekly. And after that, you will see what else has been changed after iOS and after having more percentage of users with new iOS version. So because some parts of that are not predictable, and nobody can tell you what will be according with network, and also with the connection between network and mediation, because there can be some internal issues and things with bidding.
Okay, Heelin?
Yeah, so I think increase our focus on BI and your BI stacks. Since you cannot do limited targeting anymore, that highly potentially leads to small margin. And then the focus on BI will be bigger. So you should already re-look your BI stack and how all the data are link to each other. Yeah, and then think about like how you will continue collecting data and stitch them together once, yeah, until you figure out what it works the best for you.
Okay, the next question is, are there possible even more strict restrictions according ATT policy from Apple in upcoming WWDC conference this June?
That's a good question. I hope no, because they're quite strict enough for now. We cannot detect lots of information nowadays, and I think it could be better from the point of technical appearance for values of conversion values. I hope they can make it wider for values, because 64 values is not enough, I think, for very good gradation. And also, I think some other limitations according campaigns number and so on should be removed or extended anyway, because it cannot make it a very good approach even with existing things from Apple, because when you have lots of campaigns set up and lots of titles games, it's kind of hard idea and hard challenge for you to make it working with all current state.
Yeah, I also hope not, because there are already a lot of blockers and limitation. But if they do, well, it's like we are like all learning together, and then yeah, by the time we all like figure out what we can work the best with those limitations. So I think it's a good opportunity to learn together.
Okay, so Kadev asks us, how do we get user acquisition on iOS 14.5?
The question is how to get user acquisition? I'm not sure.
Yeah. How do we get user acquisition on iOS 14.5?
Okay. There can be campaign specially set up for that with a new approach, and there can be an old one that you can reuse with previous starts, or like status as a pre-IDFA era. So you have to follow all the guides, all the stuff prepared for you from the networks, from the MMP attribution, because a lot of things should be done internally in your SDK, in your game internally, and you have to add additional things in your internal logic to have it mapped well and to have correct callbacks for some networks. For example, Facebook required to do that, and you have to do some extra steps. Otherwise, you will not follow the guide, and you will lose the connection between install and final revenue from user.
Yeah, I agree. And also, yes, we need to mitigate risk as much as possible. So, for example, we can try to maximize opt-in rate with ATT pop-up strategies, a lot of experiments.
All right. Another question from Anand. Will publishers then start investing more on SM influencers for target audience? Social media, SM, social media.
Not sure. Yeah, to be honest, not sure, because there can be another side of that. Some things are not predictable here, according to different audience paths. And I think that's not a guarantee, not the only right way. And it can be applied for some kind of experiments here, but in general, I think no.
I have a little bit different perspective here because I think I see that a lot of customers are also experimenting with influencer marketing more and more, and also now that TikTok is one of the main source, and then also a lot of videos are made by fans or influencers for like being viral. So yeah, I think new ways to have your ad scale. Yeah, so I think that's maybe like that.
The question was about that. Yeah, so this is the thing that we have only done. Yeah, we have done that, but I mean that some other things in future that you can retarget your UA only to have it like interest focused. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys. I think we have the question, the last question, because we have a lack of time. During the Hyper Games conference, it was mentioned that right now new tools will be used to track users' behavior. For instance, sensors that you have in the phone, geolocation, etc. For instance, tracking the speed of the user when he moves, thus offering him apps about psychological exercise in the public transport often. How could this help games?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Things that can help about to get more info about user. I think they're quite stricted from the Apple, and you cannot do more than allowed from the point of Apple anyway. And getting more information about internal logic, internal metrics from the game, I think it will not affect the final TV or revenue by user. And as a fact, you will not get more info, I think.
All right. Thank you very much one more time. And also, I will remind that all the rest of the questions you can ask in our chat in Q&A session. All right. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And, yeah.